Hey guys, it's Ellis. I wanted to make a video about why it took me until I was 27 years old. I wanted to address those questions because I've gotten them often enough that people are clearly curious about it, and I'm kind of tired of answering it, to be honest. Also, to say that everybody's narrative is different, and I'm still kind of retroactively unpacking a lot of things from my past and sort of figuring those things out, because if you're at any point hiding the fact that you're trans, you do a lot of self-deception. And when you do that, when you suppress who you are even to yourself, it can take a while to kind of reevaluate your life experiences and the context of who you are now and who you want to be. So I'm still kind of working through all of that. So first of all, I'll address the how do you know this isn't just a phase thing. There are several things that are wrong with that question, which is really an assumption formed as a question. Just a phase isn't a thing. Everything that you do in your life is important because it affects the next part of your life, the next portion of your life, and everybody around you. There's actually a really, really cool video I watched that breaks that down in a super beautiful way, so I'm gonna link that down below if I can figure out how to do it. I've never actually linked another video before, so hopefully I can figure out how to do that. And if I did, it'll be down below, and if not, it won't be. Another concern that people bring up when it comes to the possibility of this not being, of transitioning not being right for me, of me not actually being trans, is the concern of permanent changes that my body will have from testosterone and surgery. And what if I detransition and those things are permanent, and and I suddenly hate myself way more than I ever did before. Honestly, I don't fucking care. I'm not gonna let anybody use that as a tactic to scare me out of what feels right for me right now. I've been spending the last 20 fucking years afraid and letting other people use fear against me, and me owning that fear and using it against myself to stop me from doing what feels right. So I'm done doing that. Something that most people don't understand is that being trans, in my case, it was a survival tactic. It was either accept the fact that I'm trans and live my life in a way that feels true to me, or I stop living life. That's the position that I was in. So when people try to say, well, what if you get to a certain point and you don't feel like that's right for you anymore and it's too late, and what if you just hate the way you are? And these concerns are valid to a certain degree, especially if you've known somebody who's died from suicide. I was already there. That's why I'm doing this, because I literally could not continue to live the lie that I was living before. That abstract hypothetical idea of me sometime in the future feeling like this isn't right and that I hate myself and hate everything and whatever is so empty to me, because I was already there. It just doesn't mean anything to me. It's not gonna happen. It's just not. I know myself. I feel like for the first time in my life, I know myself. So I was raised in a pretty religious environment. I grew up in a Assemblies of God church, which is like conservative Pentecostal. When you grow up in an environment like that, you learn that there are certain things that are sinful. And one of those things is being LGBTQAI+. I never understood that, but I knew that the people around me viewed queer people as inherently sinful. And it was almost like their brand of sin was worse than any other type of sin, and like it was somehow contagious. When I was in high school, I would go to my church's youth group every Wednesday night. There was this person who was openly queer. So this is the first trans person I ever met in real life. I'm going to use the pronouns that I knew this person by at the time because they weren't openly trans at the time. And I'm going to use fake names for safety reasons. One night at youth group, I saw him crying, and there were a few other people around him who I didn't recognize. A few other, like, teenagers around him I didn't recognize, like, who looked like they were comforting him. And I was like, okay, well, clearly that's, like, something personal, and so I just kept going. I went downstairs, and I was waiting for him. I was looking, I was like... And I went back upstairs to check on him because worship was starting. So I went back upstairs to... Alright, sorry about that. My memory card got full, so I had to move some things around for that. Alright, so I later found out that Jim was asked to change, and he said, no, I'm not gonna change. And it's not like he was like, he looked fine. Like, he was dressed in a femme way, and that's it. Like, anyway, he said no, and so the, like, whoever was in charge, leaders of the church, the pastor, whatever, was like, okay, well, then you have to leave. So they made him leave. I went back upstairs, and I went outside. I went to the front of the church, went to the back of church to see if I could find him. Apparently, they wouldn't even let him stay on the church property. They made him go down to the fucking sidewalk to wait for a ride. Later that night, I found out, without even asking, people were just saying shit that they fucking shouldn't have been saying. Later, I found out that he wasn't allowed to come back to church because he was trans. Because he planned to undergo bottom surgery, and he wasn't allowed back because of that. The only people who would talk to him were the leaders of the church, and they were telling other people this without his consent. I didn't have any of his contact information at this point. I didn't have any way to get a hold of him, and I don't know what I would have done or said. I don't know. I just wanted to tell him I was sorry, I guess, that he had to deal with that. I felt so hollow. I went outside and I hid behind like a one of those walls that separates like the dumpster. So I was like by the dumpster, hiding behind the wall by the dumpster, and I just sat down and cried. And at the time, I wouldn't let myself work through all the emotions and thoughts that I was experiencing. I cried for my friend, for the shit that he was experiencing. I cried that I couldn't tell him how sorry I was. And I cried because in that moment I knew that I could never tell anybody that I was a boy. I would lose everyone in my life if I did. There are lots of less dramatic instances that lent towards the fear I had of coming out as trans, but every reason, every specific scenario is all rooted in fear of other people hating me and not accepting me. Now that I am out, there have been some people who responded very negatively. I don't know. It's still new to them. Maybe they'll come around, but I doubt it. It sucks. I wish it weren't like that, but the majority of people have been loving and accepting and are trying to understand. Okay, sorry, my phone stopped recording again. So yeah, that's, in a nutshell, I didn't come out earlier in life because I was afraid. That's it. I'm out now. It's real. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye. Mm.